Good afternoon. My name is James Grayboys. I'm the Chief of Police here at Montgomery Police Department in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. I hope everybody can hear me. One of the things I'm going to be talking about today is the fact that this conference that we called is actually going to be a recurring event. We are going to start making sure that we are doing at least once a month a news conference to make sure that we are keeping people advised and informed about some of the things that are going on at the Montgomery Police Department. Now, I want to begin, though, this news conference by making it very clear that our police department will not tolerate violent behavior in the city of Montgomery. Over the past several days, from July 10th through July 14th, we have responded to multiple shooting incidents that have impacted our community. Today, I will provide an update on these cases, share information about arrests that we have made and cases we have made over the past 60 days, and display a number of illegal weapons that have been seized during that same time period. To the citizens of this great city, please trust that we will remain committed to holding offenders accountable and keeping our neighborhoods safe. We cooperate with multiple agencies and multiple individuals to keep this promise. And we act with the full support of our city administration and the brave men and women of our police department who are working every day 24/7. Now, one of the things I'm going to begin with is the actual cases that we worked over the last 5 days, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each. When I do open it up for questions, y'all will be given an opportunity to ask some. Now, there are going to be times where you might ask a question that I will not be able to answer because I will not compromise the investigations of the cases. But where I can answer, I will. Chronologically, we started conducting a homicide investigation following the death of Brantley McNabb, age 15. It started on July 10th at approximately 2:41 p.m. Our units and fire medics responded to the 1100 block of Airbase Boulevard in report of a subject that was shot. There, we located the victim who had sustained fatal injuries from his wound. He was pronounced deceased at the scene, and we began investigating the case heavily and strongly in that area and neighborhood. I will say in relation to that case, because our CID unit, which has been working tirelessly on it, has been making incredible gains, and I am very confident that we will be holding an individual accountable in relation to this offense. But as with all investigations, we have to follow every step properly to ensure that the appropriate individual is taken and charged and brought to justice. The next homicide cases that we started working were this weekend, because we worked, of course, on Saturday, July 12th. We began homicide investigations involving the deaths of Malik Benson, age 27, and Dakeith Watley, age 26. It began on the 12th at 3:55 p.m. approximate. Montgomery Police Department units and fire medics responded to the 400 block of North California Street and the 1700 block of Upper Wetumpka Road in reference to subjects shot. These incidents were related. We located Benson in the 400 block of California Street, and he had sustained fatal injuries from a gunshot wound. He was pronounced deceased. Watley also had sustained fatal injuries from his wounds, and he was located in the 1700 block of Upper Wetumpka Road, and he was pronounced deceased. In this particular case, we are also following promising leads. We have been working together with all of our officers and some of our partners on this case, and I'm very confident in the results that will be outcoming from that case, and I expect results fairly soon. Also on this date, on Saturday, July 12th at 4:26 p.m., Montgomery Police Department and fire units responded to the 4100 block of Fitzpatrick Boulevard in reference to a subject shot. Contact was made with an adult male who sustained life-threatening injuries from a gunshot wound. He was transported to a local hospital for treatment. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to reveal something new because it's very important. While I will not reveal the identity of the victim on this case because it is an ongoing investigation and it is not a homicide case, I will reveal the fact that this individual was involved in conducting a violent felony when he received his injuries. And we are working criminal cases in relation to this subject's conduct. He would not have been injured had he not been engaging in the behavior that he was. I want to make that clear. When people engage in behavior that is violent, very often they can end up in this man's condition. On Saturday, July 12th, at about 5:26 p.m., MPD responded to a local hospital in reference to a subject shot. Contact was made with an adult male victim who had sustained a non-life-threatening injury from a gunshot wound, and it was determined that this offense occurred around the 800 block of Ann Street. Also in the 800 block of Ann Street, we answered another call that was related to another subject who was shot that we made contact with, who had also sustained a non-life-threatening injury. Of note on these cases, these subjects not only did not want to cooperate with our officers, but did not want to press charges. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to continue investigating these cases, because when people act in a manner that could be construed as dangerous, they can be a threat to themselves and others. And so, of course, we are still fully investigating these cases. Now, the last case I want to address, because this was the case that took place yesterday, was an officer-involved shooting. On Monday, July 14, 2025, at 2:40 p.m., while on patrol, MPD units attempted to conduct a traffic stop on a vehicle in the area of Country Church Road near North Watermill Road. The vehicle refused to stop, and a pursuit ensued that ended with a brief foot chase in the 5700 block of Villas Lane. During that foot chase, the adult male suspect discharged a weapon at the pursuing officer. The officer did return fire, and of course, additional law enforcement resources were deployed into the area. The subject was engaged, and he was apprehended on Villas Lane. In fact, the subject taken into custody was Tavoris Burt, age 21, and he was charged with attempted murder and discharging a firearm into an occupied dwelling. Now, I want to make very clear, in this incident, there were no injuries. The subject is locked up now at this point, and he's going to be facing his charges. One thing I want to make a really strong statement about, and I have a photograph of the individual that we arrested who decided he wanted to shoot at a police officer. And I think I would speak for not just the Montgomery Police Department, but for law enforcement in general, is we don't tolerate this behavior. You shoot at us, we are going to get you. It's that simple. Now, as part of this update, or explaining what's going on, okay, we have been very much publicizing the fact that we have been bringing violent crime down by over 28% year over year since last year. That's the truth. That's the numbers. When we have an uptick, we go after those offenders and we get them. That's one thing that's very obvious from these cases. In these particular cases, none of them were random. Suspects and, unfortunately, the victims knew each other. And, of course, I will say each case is so important to us that we do not stop them until we solve them. Now, if you notice, we have a table out here. On this table is just 50 of the 376 guns that we have taken in the last 60 days. We have taken 376 guns off the street in the last 60 days in the course of our investigations and in the course of our working to keep this city safe. As you all probably noticed on the screen behind me, there have been photographs and mugshots of individuals that we have been making cases on in the last 60 days. In fact, our CID unit has closed over 112 felony cases in that time period with arrests of individuals, some of them ranging from everything from rape charges to homicide charges to robbery charges. We will not cease and we will not flag, because we will keep working forward to make this city safe. These cases that I've all talked about, that I have mentioned here, we will not stop on those cases till they are solved. Now, one thing I get daily is I get input from my CID commander about the progress. So when I say I'm confident, it's not coming from a place of lack of knowledge. It's coming from a place where I am literally paying attention to each and every case. But at the same token, one thing we are going to do is when we reveal or release information, we are going to do it in the best interest of the case to ensure that we close, solve that case, and make sure the appropriate individual gets charged. And that is something that we are also going to do. Now, that being said, I will open the floor for questions. Yes, ma'am.
Chief, you mentioned the 15-year-old who was killed. Wasn't that we had a 13-year-old who was shot and killed? She slept in her bed. We're losing our children to gun violence. Often teens are arrested for violent crimes. What can we do to save our kids in this city?
That is a great question. And just so you know, on that case, which we are still working, and we have been making forward progress in that case, I will say this. Gun violence is multifaceted. Now, for the police, we're going to arrest people. We are going to arrest the bad guys when we catch them. But one thing that is happening, and it's frustrating, and I'm going to put it out here right now. Actually, two things I'm going to put out that is frustrating. One thing that really frustrates me is a lot of the people that we are arresting are on bond for other crimes they committed. In fact, the subject we arrested yesterday, Mr. Burt, was on bond for crimes he committed prior. We have other subjects who we have arrested who were out on bond for murder charges or other violent felonies. Now, the thing about it is if a subject can make bond very quickly and they're a repeat offender, they're very likely to come back out and commit more crimes. So I think that we need some help from agencies beyond the police department to look at how fast people are being let out or how easily a violent felon can get out of jail. From another standpoint, too, we have to look at this, and this might sound like a small thing, but I think it's important. We have a lot of times 4 victors, we call them, which is when people break into a car. And I would say about 60% of those cases, people leave their car doors unlocked, and this is what's so outrageous. A lot of people leave their guns just sitting in the glove box or under the seat, which means that those guns become readily available and easily available on the street. Further, when we don't have concealed carry restrictions like we used to, it means that it's a lot harder for us to enforce certain gun restrictions or to enforce certain restrictions on the gun carriage or gun violence, because those restrictions enabled us to take criminal guns and bad actors off the streets. So those are things that really do affect us. So I think it's also going to take words of faith. It's going to take our faith-based community. It's going to take the adults in this community to come on board and start talking to kids, start talking to even the young adults who maybe they are over 18, but they're still learning. It's going to take people working together to make this thing get better. It's going to be a community effort. Yes, ma'am.
Across the nation, we see that about half of homicides go unsolved. Do we have a number for how many homicides at the Montgomery Police Department go to trial or are solved?
Yeah. One thing I can tell you is last year, I'm speaking off of memory, but last year we had a clearance rate, I believe, of 70%. Presently, our clearance rate is at 56%, but I believe it's going to be higher by the time we reach the end of the year, because like I said, I'm very confident on the cases that we are working, and we can't claim any kind of percentage of clearance until after we have actually cleared that case. So while a case is under active investigation, it's not listed as cleared, but I'm very confident with where we're going. So our department, our CID Bureau, has been very, very much ahead of the national average on its clearance rates, and I believe we will continue to be able to do so.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you mentioned possibly getting more help when it comes to apprehending people who are out on bond. The legislature a couple of years ago passed a bill which is called the Anaya Bill after Anaya Blanchard. Would something like that, maybe another retooled version, help out with that? Do you think lawmakers could possibly address it for banks?
Lawmakers addressing that is a really good thing, because actually with what you just mentioned, I know that the recent laws that were passed in the legislature and then passed by the governor when she signed them off were actually very positive in that direction, because they actually allowed courts to have more discretion in holding people who were arrested for violent felonies. I mean, now they have discretion, I believe. Now, I'm not a legal expert, but I believe that if somebody commits, let's say, a violent robbery or a violent assault, they can actually be held till trial, which is amazing. That's a great tool, but that tool has to be utilized by the individuals who have it. What we can do, now, as the screen shows behind me, I mean, we've, like I said, in 60 days, 112 felony arrests. We're arresting these people. But unfortunately, we do keep seeing the same ones. And what happens is when somebody gets out quickly, their criminal behavior actually escalates. So what we have to do is we just have to basically get all the tools, everybody acting together and working together to actually make sure that when somebody goes out and commits a violent crime, they don't have an easy opportunity to go out and do another one after they've been arrested. Now, we will keep arresting these bad guys. Make no doubt about that, because my guys are out there 24/7. They aren't going to stop. They believe in the mission that they're following, and they're going to do everything they can. But the help we get outside of just the law enforcement angle, from legislative, from the court system, the help we get in that will make a huge difference in the crime rates going forward. We already can say we have had a lot of success. That success has come from the Montgomery Police Department. It has come from the MAX team. It has come from the county sheriff's office. It's come from road troopers. It's come from our assistance from the federal government that we work with when we talk about the federal task forces. We're out there arresting. We're making those numbers, we're proud of them. But we are seeing some of the same people over and over again. And I think one thing I am very convinced of is that you have a very small group of criminals who probably are responsible for a disproportionate amount of crime. Now, as we have been arresting some of these criminals and some of them have been getting convictions, we have seen that year over year, our numbers are much better than they were last year. Now, that doesn't mean that we should stop. That doesn't mean that we should slow down. What that means is we got to keep working, because even one homicide is too much. And I will always believe that. One violent assault is too much. One sexual assault is too much. We are not going to stop until we bring these numbers not only way down, but we're going to keep going until there's zero. And I don't think there's one police officer who doesn't agree with me on that. Yes, ma'am.
Officers responded to 5 shootings in 4 hours Saturday. I imagine that takes a toll on
It does.
the department. You have said you need more officers. Where do you stand with recruiting efforts?
Our recruiting went forward. In fact, when you just asked that question, I have to say this, and I'm sorry, but join mgmblue.com. If anybody's interested in joining our fight, they should go to joinmgmblue.com and fill out an application and become an officer. Join us on that. But I will tell you where our recruiting efforts are going, because we just graduated one academy class they are going to be joining our ranks by the end of the month. We're real proud of them. And in fact, we're starting another academy class at the end of the month. Now, aside from those classes I just mentioned, we are already building towards our November academy class, because we intend that class to be even larger than the one we have starting in July. And we have been actively and extensively recruiting lateral transfers, and we've also had a good number of people expressing interest in returning to work with us. As we've even actually just last week hired a few folks or offered a few folks employment who want to come back. So where we are is we're moving in the right direction, and we are getting more boots on the ground officers actually out there. And we're going to keep doing that. But this is going to be a race, I would say, of consistency and keeping those efforts consistent and keep moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
To the families of many victims, and one of their frustrations is that they're not getting information, updates on their cases, that kind of thing. Obviously, you guys are working behind the scenes doing that. Do you have some sort of protocol, or what is the standard for letting the families of these victims know? Because that's even adds to their grief a lot of times.
I understand what you're saying with that. In fact, actually, one of the things we are doing is that our CID unit does the best they can working their cases, but also making sure that we talk to families. But one of the things I wanted to do, and we are actually have started working, and we've been working on it for the last 4 weeks, and we've been strengthening it going forward, is that we've partnered with Vocal to start improving our ability to communicate with victims and get information out to them. And the Vocal partnership is something that I'm very pleased with going forward, because every time I've met with them, they are so helpful, and they are also very caring, and they also can, I would say, expand our footprint in being able to serve victims. Now, we still are going to do what we can to serve victims, but we also figure by bringing them in and getting their assistance, we'll be able to be even more helpful to these victims. Furthermore, I've also been in communication and talking with One Place, Family Justice Center, because the thing about it is that is also another organization that can help us expand our footprint in reaching out to victims and making sure that they get the services they need. Yes, sir.
A lot of people have been saying they were concerned about crime rising during the summer, especially from a juvenile standpoint. I see a number, like the one behind you, of the word juvenile, some of the arrests that you've made. Would curfew be on the table of discussion of handling that from a juvenile standpoint, or are you just going to handle it like you handle all the other cases?
Say that again, sir?
Would curfews be on the table for handling crime from a juvenile standpoint?
Well, curfews, those are always in the discussion, but of course, as you are aware, the police department can't just unilaterally declare a curfew. That is something that would come, you would say, from the legislative body that we would, whose rules and laws we would enforce. So that is a discussion that would be slightly different than what I would have. Now, can curfews help? Yes, they can. At other times, though, they could also be, people might argue constitutional issues with them. I mean, it is a back and forth issue, so that's something that has to be legislated. Now, I will tell you this, though. If they ever are enacted, then we will do our best to enforce them. We're going to enforce every law that gets put in front of us, because each law is a tool that we can utilize in keeping people safe and in ensuring that subjects behave in a better manner. Yes, ma'am.
You said everything is going well. Can you give us some numbers to back that up? What are you looking at in terms of new recruits coming in, or what numbers are we getting from out-of-state people?
To draw a fine point on it, I'd have to get it more, but I can tell you this. Just this last Friday alone, I had 30 candidates here for orientation, and that was just last week. Now, the reason I even mention that is because every time we're running orientation, we're getting numbers like that. Now, I got to be honest. That doesn't mean that every one of them is going to be qualified for this job, because one thing I've often said is that law enforcement is the type of job where sometimes it's better to have nobody there than somebody who's not a good cop, because a bad cop can do a lot of damage. So we got people coming from all over. And the thing I can tell you is, like to give you an example, I was getting some of our numbers last week. I mean, I had like over 400 candidates last year that we had to go through just to start picking the people we were hiring for this summer. Okay? But the thing about it is that even if you have that many candidates, you have to get the right people. You have to get people who have the qualifications. You have to get people who have the right mindset, also the education. There's a lot of things that you have to do to get a good officer, and you have to start with somebody who's going to meet all of the requirements to hire them. So we have a lot of interest. We have a lot of people coming in. We're interviewing a lot of people. So we are moving in the right direction. And the way we're moving, we are going to get our strength up, because it already is coming up. Yes, ma'am.
We see these guns on the streets. We see the arrests on the street behind you. We hear the statistics you give us about crime
you know, perception is huge because how people perceive things is usually what they carry. Now, the only thing I can do is I can promise that we're going to enforce the law. We're going to arrest violent criminals. We're going to be out there patrolling day and night no matter what. That I can promise. The other thing I can promise is that when we make arrests, we're going to hold people accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Now, one thing I would also state, and this is important because a lot of times I'm working cases where you have an individual, a robbery, let's say, where somebody went to buy some dope and then they got robbed by the person they were going to go buy dope from. Or I get other cases, you know, I have one case that I know started off as we thought it was a shooting, and it turned out that it was an individual who was mishandling their gun and was too embarrassed to tell us about it. So, I mean, you get cases where sometimes if people engage in behavior that is self-destructive and dangerous, and that is something that we deal with regularly, but that drives the numbers up. Now, a regular person coming to the city, doing their shopping, living in the city, living their life, there's over 200,000 people in this area coming in, whether they're living here or coming in, you know, to shop or to do business. And most people coming into the city are going in, day out, having their normal days before them, making their living and living their lives, and they do it fine. Montgomery is a beautiful town. We have festivals all the time. We've got musical events. So these are things that happen regularly, and I want to say that this is a safe city. Now, there's the perception out there, and the numbers don't lie. The numbers we are getting do not lie. Our robberies are down 40% year over year so far. Now, those numbers can be subject to change. Summertime, things get a little hotter. But you don't have those kind of numbers unless not only law enforcement is out there making people go to jail and holding them accountable. You get those kind of numbers because there's less of them happening. So the thing is that we will continue with that. We will. And we're not going to stop our efforts or flag them at all. I will take one more question and then I'm going to conclude. Yes, ma'am.
So downtown, there have been several incidents lately with different businesses, restaurants, shots being fired, all of that. Mm-hmm. What is the plan? I know you talked about drones. We're there over 4th of July weekend. Mm-hmm. Is there more of a plan to make sure that the downtown area is safe for tourists?
Well, the plan in the downtown has actually been working. One thing I will tell you is when you said shooting incidents, we had a shooting incident. I think we need to be real clear about that. And, of course, we started investigating that case, but one of the key things we wanted to do, even though we were investigating the case itself, is that we immediately not only made sure that the camera coverage was expanded downtown so we could be more easily able to either see what's going on, monitor what's going on, or hold people accountable, but we also increased our patrolling down that area. In fact, anybody going downtown now cannot do so, especially at nighttime, without seeing the blue lights, because we are down there heavily. And one of the reasons being is we do not want to see that area turn into something where people are afraid to go. We want people to be able to go downtown and have a nice time with their families. And one of the things I'll tell you right now, personally, I've been going downtown myself with my officers to see how things are working out there. And we've been down there every weekend now since the weekend we had that issue. And we have not had any issues that we could not handle take place downtown. Now, sometimes people might see us make an arrest down there or see us chase somebody down there. Yeah, because we're there. And we're there to make sure that nobody engages in behavior that is criminal. So when we enforce the law, sometimes it's not pretty, but people are going to see us doing it. They shouldn't be scared when they see us doing that. They should be glad, because that then reinforces their knowledge that we are out there and we are not going to stop to do everything we can to try to keep them safe. So I will conclude with that. Like I said, I'm going to make this information about Mr. Burt available, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.